we started the show by kind of celebrating the season that was offensively. The Bears end up with the third best run game in the NFL, sixth best in yardage, ninth in scoring, third best in sack rate, which is an incredible accomplishment, best in interception rate. And, oh, by the way, they ran the second most plays under center behind the Rams, according to any team. So what Ben Johnson has built here in a year and what Caleb Williams has helped accomplish, we should be proud or at least impressed with what we've seen, shouldn't we?
Definitely impressed. Obviously, all of that's led to the number 2 seed, home games in the playoffs. I mean, all kinds of great stuff. And we've been saying it all year is that, and I watch this offense and I still think there is so much meat on the bone. And that's, I think, the exciting part of it is that, I've been kind of skeptical all year, just kind of prove it to me. And they continue to prove different things just about every single week. Unfortunately, I'm still there with this team going into the playoffs. Like, show me that you are a championship caliber team. I don't necessarily see that on tape every week that I believe they can win a championship. But I do believe that they can beat anybody. I do believe that they can put it together. They've got playmakers and what you're talking about. Ben has built something specifically offensively that can travel into the playoffs and can be tough to, what I always say, they'll be a tough out. They will be tough to stop in all their facets offensively. So I really like where they're at, but I still, I guess, need to be convinced come playoff time that they can compete for the championship. But, I mean, come on, like, this is incredible. First year, second year quarterback, what we're talking about is pretty awesome. So, yes, Bears fans should be excited with where they're at and the possibilities going into the playoffs. But just as importantly, I think, is what they're going to be moving forward with what we've seen in this short period of time.
From week to week, you have educated us on the things that you like and you don't like about Caleb. Now that we have a composite, 17 games of him with Ben Johnson, where are the places where you see the growth and where are the places where you still think he can improve?
Well, I mean, I think growth overall, when you're talking about from last year to this year, first thing is processing factor. And I'll even say with that is that I still think he has to process faster than he is, but I've seen great growth from where he was last year to this year. In terms of taking sacks, where he's at this year in terms of taking sacks and understanding when a play is over, which is got to be really hard for Caleb Williams because we've seen plays this year that probably 99% of the world would say it's over, throw it away or whatever. And he makes an incredible play. But I think he's done a great job of balancing that with throwing the football away and not taking sacks and not taking negative plays and not trying to prolong things too much where it's hurt this football team. I think he's been great in terms of, when they've got into play action and you talked about the under center stuff. I think that process, I don't know how many snaps it was last year that he was under center, but it was very few and obviously very few before that in college and stuff. And so that transition, and I think he's done really, really well. A lot of their big plays down the field, which really plays into what Caleb is. And I think his greatest strength is that ability to push the ball down the field has come from the under center play action. And that has taken an enormous jump this year. I still think there's some technique stuff, the efficiency, whether that is processing or being where he needs to be on time, and then cleaning up the technique so he can be more efficient with the throws. Like he's seen a lot of plays, that were open and that were there, and he just hasn't made all the throws this year. So, that's an area I think you got to hope for a lot of improvement. But I think we've seen improvement in so many different areas in this first year that it really has been fun to watch. And now it has you so excited about, okay, this has been great. And I don't know what the playoffs have in store, but I can't wait till next year. I can't wait to watch him with another offseason and with Ben and what they're doing and in this offense and see what kind of jump he can make.
It's great stuff from Kurt Warner right here on Spiegel and Holmes. You know, the Lions played lots of zone yesterday, and apparently the Bears were expecting lots of man. So the switch up happened. And I wonder, because Caleb, Lawrence, you had pointed out in the group thread that Caleb had audibled. He checked into plays that ended up being negatives a couple of times. So maybe he's just a young quarterback. He's still confusable. What happens if you're expecting man and you're getting a lot of zone?
Well, I mean, it all varies. It depends on, what you're doing, what you're trying to do, what the checks are. Certain things are designed because, puts an extra guy into, the mix in the run game. So you're going to a pass and you're expecting a certain kind of coverage on the back end. And so, there's so many variables that go into all of that stuff. And some things that could be good against the zone can be good against man as well. But there's other things that might be designed for a different kind of zone that's not great against man. And so, yeah, being able to determine those different things and figure out the little nuance. And then, if you do get fooled, because sometimes that happens, you think you're going to get this and all of a sudden they give you that. Okay, what's the answer now? What are we going to do if that happens? And so, that's just a hard one to answer because there's so many factors that go into changing a play or alerting a play or whatever that may be.
All right, well, let me flip that then, that same discussion, but on the offensive side. The Bears' defense seems to struggle in man, and it's been for the last few weeks where we've seen a lot of crossing routes, a lot of man-beater concepts that have actually worked against the Bears. So if you're DA and you spent most of the game yesterday doing that and running into problems because you had a quarterback like Jared Goff that was good at diagnosing what he was seeing, and then guys like Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown that can run away from guys, if you're DA and you're going into this game against the Packers, maybe concerned that you don't have healthy enough guys to run as much man as you want, as a quarterback, how would you be viewing the Bears defense? What would you say is their strength, and how would you try to flip it on them?
Well, I mean, I personally think their strength is probably playing zone defense and, trying to change it up and keep you off balance and force you into situations where you can make, little mistakes on the back end. I don't think they're a great man team. I don't think they're a great defense by any means. And so when you're not a great defense, I don't know if you want to play a lot of man coverage where, somebody gets beat and it leads to big plays, because to me, this defense is keep them in front of you. You guys have been great at when the ball's tipped or when somebody's in a negative situation. You had, Jared Goff in that, third and long and great at taking the ball away and making plays from that perspective. You just have to avoid the big plays that can hurt you. And I think especially now because their offense, although been good, not necessarily great, and especially at different times. We saw it yesterday, had trouble putting a lot of points on the board. So you never want a team, and I could go back to the first Detroit game, right? The first Detroit game, man, it was big play after big play after big play after big play. And game got away from them and the offense couldn't keep up. And so to me, it's more of a zone team. Of course, you can change it up and mix in your mans when you have to do that, but more of a zone team, keep teams in front of you and try to force teams into mistakes, and then keep capitalizing on them like you have all year long.
Kurt, did you get a chance to see the interception or maybe even the replay of the interception that was ahead of DJ Moore? It's the only interception of the day, the deep ball into the end zone. Wondering what your thoughts were on that play. There looked to be some blank space off to the left. Maybe Caleb could have put in a different spot for DJ to run, but some of us were also wondering if DJ made the best effort necessarily on that play.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, those are so hard when you're throwing a 55-yard pass. To expect a quarterback always to just drop it in the perfect spot, I mean, is crazy. I mean, there was a defender that was kind of underneath and to the outside of the throw. The guy that intercepted it was the guy over the top. DJ, was kind of splitting the two and one. He was in a position where he could have made a play. I know what you guys are saying. Like, maybe there could have just been a little more of a burst for him to get to the ball instead of the defender. But again, I just think that was one of those, hey, we got our shot play called. He won to some degree. Throw it out there and take a shot. Like, this is what we've been good at. Take a shot. And most times when that happens, you hope that the ball hits the ground if you don't complete it. But if a team, makes the interception there, hopefully you get them down to the ground and it's a 55-yard punt and you live for another day, but at least you're threatening a defense and taking a chance. So I think that was really just wasn't a terrible throw, wasn't terrible on anybody's part. He wasn't wide open. It was just, hey, this is a shot. We got a chance at it. Let's put it out there. And it just didn't work out for him this time, but they've made so many of those this year.
If it was one of your wide receivers who didn't necessarily go get it, would you be upset in the moment?
I don't think so on that one. I mean,
Okay.
That wasn't again, that wasn't one that I thought, oh, that should have been completed. What were you doing, DJ? I didn't think that. I just thought it was close and we just missed.
Okay.
And they were there to make a play. I didn't see it the other way.
All right. So Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, they wouldn't put you in that position. We understand.
Kurt,
they probably would have been open by 7 yards. So
that's right.
So I could have missed by 5 yards and we'd still be good.
What's real and what's fantasy when it comes to how things change from the regular season to the postseason?
It's a lot of people talk about, the pace of things and everything, being faster. And I don't know if that's possible. I mean, that would just be saying, oh, guys don't play as hard and as fast in the regular season as they just decide to play a little bit faster, in the playoffs. Like, I don't think that's the case. I think what makes it feel faster and better is, the fact that you understand the stakes. You understand the ramifications of every play. And, one play that costs you a regular season game is different than one play that knocks you out of the playoffs and sends you home. So I think you understand that. I think the other part of it, too, is that you're playing against really good teams every week. So it's not as if, okay, we're playing against a bad team and then we're playing against an average team. And then we got a good team and then we got an average team again. Everybody's good. And so every play and every game is so vital. And you just have to be a little bit better. You got to be a little bit more buttoned up and you got to make the plays that are there. And you can't let them make, the plays on the other side. And so that to me is really the biggest difference. And then when you talk about pressure, the one thing to me about, playoff time and when it comes to pressure is I think there's so much to not letting one play lead into another play that leads into another play. And so, in the regular season, again, there's going to be another shot. There's going to be another game. There's going to be every game doesn't mean as much. When you're in those big moments and you make a mistake, it's so easy to go, oh my gosh, if I make another mistake, we're going to go home and we're not going to get another shot. And so you allow one play to lead into another play, to lead into another play. And that's what oftentimes can sink people. I played in 3 Super Bowls and, my first Super Bowl, we were up 16-0. And then we were tied 16-16. In my second Super Bowl, we were down 17-3, I think. And we came back and tied it at 17-17. And then in my last Super Bowl, we were down 10 at the half and we came back and took the lead with 2.5 minutes to go. So all that to say, there's ebbs and flows in these big games, just like every other game. But if you start to panic when something goes against you early, that's usually when the blowouts happen. That's usually when the good teams take advantage of it. So you really have to allow, when we talk about the pressure, is you can't let that part of the pressure get to you, thinking, oh, shoot, that one play just cost us this playoff game. You got to ride the wave and you got to get back in line and you got to, one snap and clear, let that play go and get to the next one because things can change and, momentum shifts in these big games just as much as they do in any regular season game.
Kurt Warner was in some good Super Bowls. That's one of the takeaways right there.
Yeah.
Those are some good games. All right, so you mentioned you don't necessarily see the Bears as being championship caliber, and we totally understand that. Who does strike you as possibly championship caliber as the playoffs are about to get going here?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. And I look at the NFC, I think there's a lot of teams with flaws. Like, I do think Seattle's the best team. They're going to be playing at home. Their defense is really, really good. I mean, championship level defense and a solid offense. I don't think they're a great offense. I think they can be beaten. I think they're going to be in some low scoring games. And so I think there's going to be some teams that might have a chance to beat them because they're not this high flying offense. But I do think they're the best team on the NFC side when you look at the completeness of their team. I would have said the Rams a couple weeks ago. I did say the Rams a couple weeks ago. And I still think they're a good football team with great explosiveness and a lot of pieces on offense. But I don't think they've played as well. I mean, obviously their record shows they haven't played as well. But specifically these last two games, I called them Monday night. I just got done watching the tape from yesterday's game against Arizona. And they just don't seem to be clicking like they were earlier in the year. Where I think they're a really good football team. And I don't think if there's any team maybe outside of going to Seattle that you don't want to face, I think it's the Rams because of all the things that they have. But I just don't think they're playing their best football going into the playoffs. So all these other teams, Philly, we know the issues they've got on offense, although they have a championship level defense. San Francisco, they've been playing great on offense before Saturday night, but their defense has all kinds of issues. Green Bay, I have no idea what we're getting there. They haven't, really done anything since Micah got hurt, and then, Jordan. So I don't really know. I don't think, this is a field of a bunch of dominating teams on the NFC side. And so I think that's what makes it exciting is, a young team like Chicago has a shot. A veteran team like Philly that hasn't played great all year has a shot. The wild card teams have a shot. I'm excited to watch it play out because I don't think there is a dominating team in the NFC, and I do think Seattle is the best of all of them, but still have their weaknesses.
Kurt, as always, we appreciate the education. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys, take care. Good luck.
Great stuff. Thanks, Kurt. He wears two gloves sometimes when it's cold outside.
It's important.
Yeah.
That was his choice. There was another Hall of Fame quarterback that said he only wore one.
Yeah, I always wear two gloves when it's time to be outside in the cold.
If they don't fit.
And you know what to do.
That's right.
Yeah, you do. I love that. Green Bay, I have no idea what we're going to get.
That's what I've been saying is on paper, they're the team that you want to play.
Yeah.
But you put the jersey on, you put the helmet on.
Sure.
It makes it feels like if you say that out loud, it conjures some sort of curse.
Don't let them in.
Right?
You got to let the right one in. And you're afraid you're letting in the Packers. Tanny, we need that short cut from Kurt Warner for Turn the Page whenever we decide to do it. Again,
Ben.
We're not doing it today, just so everybody knows. Ben wants us to, but we refuse today because we're going to sit in whatever that was yesterday.